please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
The first edition of the India-UK Createch Summit was held recently in Mumbai to capitalize on opportunities in tech innovation and creativity in India and the UK.
Has huge potential to create memories for people, to give people things that they will genuinely remember for a long time.
The summit brought together British creative industry heavyweights from augmented reality and creative new post-production who showcased revolutionary technology in film and advertising to bring to life magnificent characters. They are now working closer with Indian partners, bringing the magic and creativity of Harry Potter and Paddington to India.
The theory of how to develop brands was then probably codified in the 70s and 80s with these key tenets. Build intangible value. So without many significant physical differences between the products, brands were built by adding intangible value. So in other words, brand names would associate themselves with those soft values, emotions, moods, feelings, a personality. So a washing powder brand would be caring and maternal, and a soft drink brand would feel cool and young, and so on and so forth. And these soft values would build that character of the brand. And marketing sort of abounded with lots of tools to help people think about tone and style and manner, and how the brand should communicate and what its voice should be, and so on and so forth. And that brand character largely, but not exclusively, was developed with advertising, mass media advertising. And as Stephen King said, advertising was the direct link with the buying public. So using advertising, the manufacturers could bypass the retailers and talk directly to the shoppers to build that brand character. And mass media was the very efficient tool for doing it, which mostly only the big players could afford. So brands and mass advertising budgets were the two moats that protected the manufacturer's competitiveness.
What I love is the fact that we are now able to tell stories in a different way. I wouldn't even begin to compare them to flat screen storytelling, because it's a different genre to me. It gives you a different experience. It can affect you physiologically, physically, and possibly psychologically as well. It has huge potential to create memories for people, to give people things that they will genuinely remember for a long time, and I believe truly inspire people if you get that experience right. I'm proud to announce that today we've teamed up with an Indian company, Anabrain, and Jesh is here with us today. And I look forward to combining our joint talent, some of the best talent in India with some of the best talent in the UK, to create really a global powerhouse of creativity and technology to make more of these sorts of experiences, no matter whether it's for a film or for a piece of AR or VR or for a piece of storytelling that hasn't been invented yet. Whatever the challenge is, I think our combined creative thinking and problem solving can change the world.
Well, for 30 years that Framestore has been running, we have been taking on more challenging projects, always pushing the boundaries of innovation and what's possible. And we realize that the future of our organization and our industry is going to be collaboration. It's finding partners that are aligned with your thoughts and your vision. And we'd started working with Anabrain and Jesh several years ago, and knew immediately that this was a company that aligned perfectly with ours, with Framestore, and that we should form a partnership.
Anabrain is 12 years old, pretty much to the day today. And we've always, as a company, been a company that wanted to innovate, that wanted to be creative, that wanted to be at the leading edge of the industry in the country. And about 5 years ago, we first collaborated with Framestore, and I think a great partnership was formed right then. And over the years, we collaborated on many occasions. And I think given that the way Framestore has been growing, and it's a leading global company doing this, Academy Award-winning company, BAFTA Award-winning company doing this, they were natural allies to us in what we were doing, which was supporting companies like this abroad. And then we start, William Sargent, who's the CEO of Framestore, we started discussing and seeing how we could collaborate, and eventually we realized that this made a lot of sense because we had a strong cultural fit between the two companies. We had similar visions, similar passions, and also a lot of the verticals that we have within the two companies were very, very similar. So it made a lot of sense to come together and create this joint venture, and that's pretty much what we ended up doing.
The Producers Guild of India signed a highly significant MOU with the UK's Producers Alliance for Cinema and Television that outlines a more formal collaborative relationship between the UK and the Indian production sector spanning the film, television and digital content industries.
So we launched a global alliance last year, and we'd already been talking to the TV Guild of India about an MOU relationship, mainly made up of joint collaboration and being able to share and try and bring our industries closer together. So that combined with the global alliance and this event taking place in Mumbai give us the opportunity to sign a more collaborative agreement to commit to work together.
What we try to do with the Producers Guild of India is for film, television, as well as producers in any other medium. We aim to be able to give them the opportunities to be able to interface with best practices from around the world to be able to help their production capabilities. And PACT is one such global alliance that actually we will be able to benefit a lot from. PACT is an association that actually deals with best practices in production as well as contracts, as well as negotiations, as well as worker issues, etc. from around the world. And they have a wealth of experience in this area. And we do think that as a Producers Guild, it is our responsibility to our members to be able to expose them to things that will be able to enhance their productivity. And we believe that this is one such association that will do that.
I think it's safe to say for the uninitiated that Indian cinema will be sort of regarded as before Bahubali and after Bahubali. That film changed and redefined the landscape in terms of audiences, box office, storytelling, and especially visual effects. So Shobhu, I want to start with you. Where was the origin of that story? And as a producer, what was your biggest challenge in bringing the director Rajamouli's vast and incredible vision to life?
The genesis was 5 years ago. In 2012. Now it's 6 years. Rajamouli wanted to make this. He was coming after Ega, which was a small film, but highly visual effects driven film. And his whole ambition was to make this larger than life, huge film set in Indian mythology or Indian history. Not history, but Indian environment, Indian geography. So the idea was to make this fictitious story set in India. Many of you might be familiar with Amar Chitrakatha. That's the Indian comics that were. So his whole idea was to bring this Amar Chitrakatha kind of a thing into life on a giant screen. So that's where the whole thing started. And that's where we got involved.
When 6 years ago, when you're faced with a film that requires this much, sort of visual effect work, did you think that we just can't do it? Or how the hell are we going to get this done?
The way Rajamouli works as a director and what we supported him, imagines first the visual or the vision or the scene or the geography, and then figures out how to achieve it. It's not the other way around. Do we have the technology? And then it's not, basically what I'm saying, the vision is not constrained with the technology available or what was achieved earlier. It is more he dreams, and then we try to, everybody else comes together to how best we can get that onto the film. So that's where we were able to do it. Because the other way around, I don't think we would have been able to possibly.
The Indian film form is very distinctive. It's It's perhaps the world's only cinema that relies so much on music, which is such an integral part of our storytelling. It's the only cinema that works up to an intermission. Mike, do you see these sort of form differences as being in any way a hurdle to collaboration between the West and the East?
I think that the barriers to collaboration are overcome by having people from those cultures embedded in your culture. So we have experience of producing a theme park ride for China. We were trying to design a dragon and spent a long time getting it wrong. And it was only when we then turned to somebody that really understood the Chinese culture, a Chinese national, that we started to get it right. But it was still a combination of our creative thinkers with the right cultural influences applied to it that solved the problem.
Shubhu, do you think that Indian filmmakers use visual effects differently from Western filmmakers? I mean, Bahubali is also, in a sense, a superhero movie, but our superheroes just don't wear capes. So is the use different?
We do not have, like I was telling you earlier, we do not have the kind of budgets that most Western Hollywood films have. So we tend to think out of the box to get a solution for what we want to bring to life.
How do you get around the budget issue?
So the budgets in visual effects, since we started doing visual effects, have always been a challenge. You always seem to want to be able to do more than the budget can afford. What we have, through our relationships with the studios now, persuaded them, or they see the logic in it, is to have one of our people embedded in the production team. So often our supervisors that used to be vendors for the studios now work as almost as employees of the studios. And what we're doing at script stage is analyzing the best place to spend the budget to get the most out of the visual effects. And if you approach things in the right manner, in the right way, you can make your budget often go 50% further with the visual effects by planning them properly and involving those creative, technical people as early as possible in the process.
With technology doing such incredible things, do you think the human imagination can keep pace? Are we going to be able to think of amazing enough stories to take advantage of what you can build?
Human imagination is the most powerful tool that we have. And what happens with, I think, a technology like VR is that it just opens your mind, because anything is possible. So the normal limitations that we have of filmmaking before we could do visual effects, we were limited by how many characters we could have, the size of an army. Once you take those rules away, people's imaginations flourish to film. And I think VR will do the same thing. It may not be my brain that's flourishing, but the younger generation will, I think, take that on and do amazing things with it.
Let me first begin with you, Harish. Take us through some of the key milestones that you have achieved over the last 5 years, some of the emerging trends across various consumer segments that are helping you strategize better.
Over the years, the brand has earned trust from millions of customers. The brand has also come to stand for being pioneering. One big trend, of course, is the entire trend of digitization, the world going digital. And many of our brands have tried to leverage that trend and also play to that trend.
At Mahindra, there was a brand repositioning that happened a couple of years back from Mahindra to Mahindra Rise. How challenging was it to have a single message across various product segments?
In order to come up with the brand position Rise, we essentially did two kinds of research. We first looked in. We did a huge internal research on what is the Mahindra DNA all about. And then we went to 7 countries and did ethnographic research across 7 countries of the world. And essentially what we found is this desire among both our employees and our consumers and our prospective consumers, because in some of the countries that we did research, we weren't even selling too much at that point in time, to seize and shape their own destiny. Right. And it is this simple but powerful idea that we captured under Rise.
So Sundar, you're engaged in building the Indian Super League. Share with us some unique brand building strategies that you've been employing and while creating careers for the youth of the nation.
There are challenges. There are tremendous challenges in growing football as against cricket. The challenges of football is you don't have a pipeline of talent. You need to build that pipeline today. But if you don't lay the pipeline of talent who are going to start today and hopefully play for the country, represent India in a FIFA World Cup in 2026 or 2030, if not earlier, you're not on the track at all. The opportunities that we've had with the opening up of Premier League or access to La Liga or access to Bundesliga or any of the other sports is that it sort of rekindles a desire in the 10-year-old, 12-year-old to say, I want to be there. And that's opened up a huge opportunity of fulfilling an aspiration and desire of the young India by giving them a career choice.
And Guy, finally to you, what is the one biggest challenge of the digital age that brands need to navigate very successfully in order to really create better brand value and connect better with consumers?
I'll finish on creativity, mentioned critical, because that's just our perspective, so forgive me for taking that. And the old way of creating, the old way of thinking that one creates for mass media has got to evolve. And it used to be quite close to the art world, where you create something that's singular and perfect. You know, the Mona Lisa. Yeah, a great television commercial. There's one edit, the perfect edit. And I think what's happening is, I think the point you're making is, now you don't have to get it right first time. In fact, it's very hard to get it right first time because we're moving into new territories. So you actually need a creative mind that says, I'm not going to try and create the only right one. I'm going to have a go at this in several different ways, and I'm being prepared to learn how to make it better again and again and again. And that's a completely different kind of creative mindset. So it's not about singular brilliance. It's about kind of various implementations. And I think that's going to be the future of the kind of creativity you see for brands from agencies, is much more like that.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We are going to be watching all your brands very closely and hoping to connect better with all of you as consumers. Let's have a huge round of applause for our panelists here, please. Thank you.